you say, your mental health, you're going to be feeling, really low in mood, really sad, really frustrated. That's going to affect your self-esteem, your confidence as well, for example. And that's going to lead to really unhealthy behaviors. That can lead people into restricting their food even more, skipping meals, not eating for days because they just think, oh my God, wow, the scale's changing. So if we can shift the focus off the scales, and like you said, start endpoint, I see better progress with people when we have the weight check at the start and the end point. And like you've said, if you're doing gym or weight training, your body shape will change. You'll notice change on the inches around your body, especially around that hip, that waist, the bust. But the scales might not even move much, but you will feel better, and you'll look better in yourself as well. But it's using the guidance of scales. If they don't affect your mental health, I say, okay, use them. But if it is, I say ditch them.
Welcome back, friends, to another episode of the Plant Fueled Podcast. I am your host and plant-based nutritionist, Callum Weir. I hope you're all well. If it's your first time here, or you're a regular listener and enjoying the podcast, then if you could give it a quick rating, either some stars, maybe a review depending on what platform you're on, then it would mean the world to me and hopefully allow others to find the podcast easily. Today we have Soraya Pineda on the show. Soraya is a dietitian with years in the field under her belt. In this episode we delve into different diet trends, how they affect our health and how they came about. We discuss learning how to create a more sustainable approach to dieting and how to swerve away from those fad diets that pop up over and over again. We also discuss problems we see within the industry, how we shouldn't be demonizing foods with certain words, breaking down the differences between diet and dieting, breaking apart fad diets such as juice cleanses and the keto diet, and so much more. Of course, if you are interested in what you've heard in today's episode, then all Soraya's details should be in the show notes for you all to follow and get in touch with her. So let's delve into dieting on this episode of the Plant Fueled Podcast. Good afternoon, Soraya.
Afternoon.
So today we're going to be talking about all things weight loss and diet related, how these diets come about, what they do to you, how sustainable they actually are, the myths around certain diets, and just kind of throwing out those fad diets that kind of come and go every year or every few years. And of course, the perfect person to come and talk about these subjects is, of course, a dietitian. So here we are. You're here.
I am. Thank you for having me. And what a topic to talk about. We could talk about this for hours and hours, couldn't we?
That's the thing. But we spoke just before this podcast started, and I think we wasted a good 15 minutes just talking nonsense.
I know, yeah. Oh, I know, yeah. So thanks for having me. Like, where do we kick off?
Oh, that's the thing. There's so right when it comes to like diet culture, there is so much that we couldn't fit in everything, even if we tried. So I think we'd be on here for about 6-7 hours. So we just kind of have to go with the main ones, I think. But of course, let's find out a bit more about you first. So who are you?
Yes, well, thank you. I'm Soreya. I'm a dietitian, as you just said. So I've been working as a dietitian in the NHS since about 2011. And about a year and a half ago, I made the very scary and exciting jump to start my own business, which is really exciting because I got to specialize in plant-based nutrition. So as I was just saying to you before, 4 years ago, I completely changed my diet. I went from a very heavy meat and dairy diet to completely plant-based. So in my private practice, I get to focus on plant-based nutrition. There's so many ways it can help people. I never knew what I wanted to do. And as time went on, it became more and more apparent that people are really struggling to lose weight. People don't know what to eat anymore. There's so much misinformation out there. Everyone is an expert on nutrition these days, especially with social media. And the struggle's real. It's like heartbreaking. So I focus on helping people lose weight through plant-based nutrition and small habit-based changes and lifestyle changes. So that's me. And I also got my job in the NHS. I still work for them, and I work in their weight management service. So I talk all things food, diet, weight loss all day long.
No, I completely agree with that misinformation. There is so much out there, and in the space of social media, everybody is a self-proclaimed expert, and it's literally shifting through everything. You got like I will go on Instagram, and you'll get dairy farmers that are nutritionists and they're nutrition experts in B12, or milk and dairy, and the same with just so many different groups. Everybody's in their little niches, and it's now trying to decipher what's going on between those different niches and seeing if there's actually anything relevant in one of these bits. And half the time it's coming from very outdated or information that's not overly relevant or hasn't got a good study behind it either. There's a lot of studies that are very much just kind of biased towards an industry, as well as kind of but there was a study I saw the other day that was saying how bacon was healthy for you. But when I looked into the study, they were comparing it to a McDonald's sandwich. Which obviously when that's posted, people be like, oh, bacon's healthy for you. And then it's kind of, when you actually look into it, but most people don't look into this thing. They'll be like, oh, what's it compared against? And it was like I think it was a bacon sandwich. It was a bacon sandwich from McDonald's. So bacon compared to a overly processed bacon food, what's the difference? And obviously they put that into the limelight and be like, you know what, this is the best way, but nobody looks into it.
No, and that's why it's so hard for members of the public who are not scientifically trained, who don't look into studies. They see these headlines and they think, oh my goodness, bacon's healthy, amazing. That's what I should be doing now. And it is so confusing because the media will put these headlines out there and literally people don't know what to eat anymore. I had someone say to me the other day, I don't even know what to eat for breakfast anymore. Like, I'm literally so confused. And it's got to the point now where people don't even know what to eat or how to put a meal together because of these headlines. And when you talk about scientific studies, well, there are hundreds out there, aren't they, on how plant-based, predominantly a plant-based diet or dietary pattern is going to help you reduce the risk of chronic diseases, help you lose weight and maintain it. Like, it is huge. We can touch upon that as well in this podcast.
That's the thing. Like, I think for anybody that is just looking in from the outside, it's hard to just kind of decipher the information that's there. And I can say wholeheartedly that I've fell into those traps in the past, as I think everybody has. Obviously when you're growing up, you'd be like, everybody's doing something different. You're like, oh, maybe if I do that, I'll become skinny. Maybe I'll do that, I'll become muscly. And there's always that preconception that you want to look like something else, or you want to be something else, and it's sad.
Yeah, it is. And like you say, before you had the knowledge, you used to act differently or eat different foods, didn't you? And before I became a dietitian, I literally did a lemonade diet. I did like all different diets. I did this diet because Beyonce did it. And I was like, wow, Beyonce looks that good. I'm going to do it. And it was like this lemonade diet. I lasted less than 24 hours. Like, it was horrendous. But I tried all sorts of different things because I thought, this is the way that you lose weight. This is the best thing that you can do. And then I studied nutrition and realized that is not what you do. It's the opposite. You need to eat more of the foods that are going to fuel your body, fill you up for longer. You need to not skip meals. It's the opposite of what you think you need to do. So I fell into that trap as well. So thank goodness we're here to share the knowledge and help people, I say.
I feel like I need to know more about this lemonade diet now. Is it just purely drinking lemonade?
Oh, it was absolute years ago. Yeah, it was something like that. I'm pretty sure it was like fizzy water, fresh, like homemade lemonade. Yeah, it was horrendous. And this is like people who are trying to lose weight. They've been trying to lose weight for years. People we see in the NHS. You're not talking a couple of years of trying to lose weight. You're talking about people who are trying to diet since the ages of 10, since the ages of 11, and they're now 40 or 50. Now that's almost a lifetime of diets, of trying, like, oh my goodness, I had someone the other day saying they're on an egg diet, someone saying they're doing a cabbage soup diet. They're trying so many different things. But do you know what people aren't trying? Is seeing a health professional, seeing a nutritionist or a dietitian. But everyone's tried every faddy diet out there.
I feel like as well, like if you're going to go to a nutritionist or a dietitian, that's normally a lot cheaper than buying Juice Plus.
Yes, absolutely.
So people buy that. What was it? Was it like, oh, was it Booties? I think it was Booties or something like that, or Juice Plus. And normally it's like a subscription base of like £100 a month. I'm like, with that money that you've just wasted, you could have gone to a professional, and they would have sorted it out for you.
Yeah, like we're all here. Like, you can go to your doctor, you can get a referral to an NHS dietitian. Like, yes, we have a waiting list at the moment because of COVID and a huge backlog. But if you don't want to go to NHS and have the waiting list, and you can seek one out privately, like you say, we are here. There are websites where we're available. And funnily enough, I had someone inquire about my services, and I spoke to her about what we would do. We would meet every week. You'd have support, accountability, the goals we would set. And do you know, by the end of the phone call, she turned around and said, oh, I think it's just easier to go and do a juice cleanse and a shake diet, if I'm honest. I was just like, okay, well, we'll see how that serves you. And, you know, you come back to me if that doesn't work out for you, because as we know, they make you lose the weight for a week or two, but the weight comes back on.
It blows my mind. Everybody's looking for that quick fix, and that's exactly what it is. Nobody wants to wait around for a sustainable problem, sustainable issue. It's weird because everybody wants that quick fix to a problem. So whether or not that be sustainable or not, people will be like, oh, you know what? Like, let's go like Juice Plus, whatever, and let's say I lose all this weight that I wanted to in the next 3 weeks. Great, I've got it. But I then don't think of that long term, where it will eventually come back because you've not done something sustainable, and there's no sustainability around it whatsoever. And it's just sad to see people would rather go for a quick fix that's not going to work out in the long run, and obviously delve back into that unhappy state, what, a month, 2 months later. And it's just, I think nutrition just needs to be openly available to everyone now, because at the moment there's every month or so there's something new coming out. I saw someone the other day that was like, oh, we should, because obviously somebody's taken that whole conception that there's a lot of protein in broccoli. So obviously there is protein in broccoli, just not enough to sustain. And somebody was having that as their breakfast, lunch, dinner, nothing else. And I was like, you're gonna be in such a bad way. Not even in like a few months' time. In a week, I give it a week, and you're gonna be in a bad way.
Yeah, and it is, like you say, it's sad, isn't it? And it's a shame that people go to these lengths. But I truly believe it's because of the way that, you know, what's on the media. We have these programs like the Biggest Loser, lose weight in the quickest way. The magazine articles are like, you know, lose a stone in 1 to 2 weeks. Like, that is not sustainable. And if you do something to lose the weight and it doesn't seem sustainable long term, then I always say to people, the results won't be sustainable long term. That's what we know, isn't it? The fatty diets don't work long term. It's now getting the message out there, is trying to look for doing something that is sustainable, that is going to work long term. Might take you a bit longer to get there, but it's just realizing that you will get there as well.
Absolutely. But I think before we go any further, we should really need to define the difference between a diet and dieting, just to stop any confusion on the actual, for any of the listeners here, because obviously a diet is how we, and I think that's also a massive thing, is people don't know the difference. So obviously when somebody's like, oh, are you eating a plant-based diet? They're like, is this to lose weight? No, it's just because that's the way you eat. So for the listeners out here, what would you define the difference between a diet and dieting? Because obviously there's so much confusion between the two, but they do mean two very different things.
Yeah, it's a really good point that you brought up, because you'll probably hear me and maybe yourself refer to plant-based diets. And dieting is where you are actively trying to lose weight by measures of whether you're reducing calories or having a calorie restrictive diet. But we're talking about plant-based diet, which is your typical eating pattern, the way we choose to eat, just our general pattern overall.
Yeah, exactly the same here. I would always argue the point that dieting is for a specific reason, although it's been portrayed over the years by news sources and other health experts, that dieting is something that needs to be done to lose weight. And a diet, I think it's the word diet. People put those two things together and they're kind of like, oh, diet and dieting mean exactly the thing. Whereas obviously you can be on a carnivore diet. You can be on a plant-based diet. You can be on a vegan diet. And that's just your way of eating on a day-to-day basis. Whereas obviously dieting is very much just losing weight. Or, but then I guess you can probably diet to bulk, if we put it that way. Because there is a specific diet to bulk. Oh, so it's, yeah, losing or gaining.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be used in so many different contexts, can't it? And there's so many different diets and dietary patterns, ways of eating out there, isn't it? There's absolutely loads at the moment. There's a popular one we spoke about before is the ketogenic diet, isn't it? That's one I see time and time again, or I get asked about. So what about you?
I hate the keto diet. I hate everything about. I don't understand it. Like, I don't overly understand how it's a viable or sustainable thing. So I've had people come to me asking what to do because they've been on a keto diet for, I think it was 2 years. And I'm like, after you've been on something for 2 years, how have you? And then something's gone wrong, and it was, I can't remember the reason they came to me afterwards, but it was, oh, it's more of reintroducing foods back into a diet. Because obviously when you're restricting carbs for that amount of time, obviously that we have to realize that they probably ate carbs at some points. I don't think you can go a complete 2 years without eating a single carb, because obviously vegetables are carbs. But then again, do keto, do they cut out all vegetables as well? And this is where it just blows my mind.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're right. Even with the ketogenic diet, there's still different variations of that. There's about 4 different variations of the ketogenic diet that people do anyway. So for anyone that's listening, like the ketogenic diet, like all started back in the 1920s, didn't it? So it came from helping children with epilepsy control their seizures. So that's how the ketogenic diet came about. It helped them mimic the effects of starvation. And control their seizures. So children who were doing it were very much managed by doctors and pediatricians. And then in the 1900s, we started using it for weight loss, obesity management, and it just kind of got crazy. But it's so heavy in animal-derived food products and lacking in so much fruit and vegetables and all the foods we know that help keep you full, improve your gut microbiome, reduce the risk of chronic diseases. Like it's really starving the gut, isn't it? And your brain power as well. Like the brain needs glucose, it needs carbs. So this person, I would be intrigued to know how they felt of 2 years of being on a keto diet and not having any mineral vegetables.
That's the thing. Like when I spoke to this person, they didn't feel great by the end of it. This is when they decided that this might not be for them. But 2 years, it surprised me that somebody's been on it 2 years. But I don't know the actual long-term effects of it. I don't think anybody really does. But it's still a very new kind of construct in this day and age, really. That there's not many people doing more than kind of 6 months. They're kind of ketoing for like 6 months, get rid of that weight that they need, and then going back to a normal lifestyle. So somebody that's been doing it for years and years. But I don't know also how long these people are doing it for. I don't think it can be a long-term thing. I don't understand how it could be long-term.
No, absolutely. I mean, we know the short-term effects are going to be constipation because you're not having enough fiber. People report and the studies say you get abdominal pain, vomiting as well. You're also going to get risk of kidney stones long term because of all the flushing of the sodium and the potassium and the salts through the urine. So it really comes with some really, really nasty complications, headaches as well. So brain fog. So there's some of the common side effects that I know, and as well as gut health issues I've seen people come to me with. But the studies, weight loss studies, like you've alluded to there, to get the weight off, studies show us that the ketogenic diet is the fastest one to do for quick weight loss. But that's not the problem, is it? We can lose weight, but it's just keeping it off long term that is the problem. So yes, you can lose the weight and you'll maintain it at 6 months, but at 12 months, the studies show us that weight loss diminishes. So all that you've been through, that short-term weight loss, it comes back on. And then what are you going to do?
That's the thing. Like, I just don't understand how it's enjoyable for one either. I feel like restricting yourself on such a large variety of food and keeping to, well, if we're going to go towards meat, then most people are only eating 5 of the same animal. So you're really restricting like 1,000 other things. Obviously, you got your fat in there as well. So you got your obviously nuts, seeds, and other bits and pieces. But you're really wiping out a huge amount of food, and it's just, to me, I would easily get bored. But also, I also don't understand how a vegan keto diet works, because because they're a thing, but also our food really deprives of its carbs.
I mean, you got me there. You have got me. I literally cannot answer how a vegan keto would work either. So
it was in the nutrition course, they do talk about it, but they don't go into depth. And I'm like, I don't want, I wouldn't be able to justify telling anyone about it when I haven't been taught it. But I feel like it's probably eating just a lot of tofu.
yeah, gosh, that's one to look into. I've not had anyone come to me who want to do a vegan keto diet, so that's one that I would need to look into for sure. But I mean, while we're on the topic of different dietary patterns, I can go through a few of the top ones if you wanted. Do you want me to do that now?
Yeah, let's go for the top. Let's go for the top ones.
Right. So, have you heard of the US News and World Report, where they go through the best diets or the best eating patterns?
Yeah.
Okay. So, for anyone listening who hasn't heard of it, let me give you some information. So, it's a panel of 27 national recognized experts in diet, nutrition, obesity, food, psychology, diabetes, and heart disease. And they all rate the different dietary patterns in 7 categories. So the categories they rate them on are going to be how easy it is to follow, its ability to produce short-term weight loss, long-term weight loss, is it safe, is it nutritionally complete, can it potentially prevent or manage diabetes and heart disease. So they're the 7 key things they assess these dietary patterns on. So interestingly, the top ones for the best diets for weight loss or best dietary patterns, the first one is flexitarian. So, I mean, I got to be completely honest, flexitarian and Mediterranean diet, I did not really know what the difference was going to be between these two. So flexitarian came out the top because it was easy to follow. You didn't have to cut anything out. You basically just have to increase the amount of fruit and vegetables you're having, increase your plant proteins, and decrease your meat and dairy or consumption of animal-based products. So that came out of the number one because it was easy to follow and people haven't got to think about replacing nutrients. And the fourth one, vegan diet, come for the 4th best for weight loss. So the reason it fell short at coming at the 4th best was because it was found to be difficult to follow. You have to replace nutrients, and it can be quite time consuming. Now, someone who is vegan or plant-based might agree to differ, because we find it quite easy to follow. We do this day in and day out. But the weight loss was exactly the same for the flexitarian and vegan diet. It was just thought the flexitarian is easier, which becomes more appealing to people. So I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Well, I feel like flexitarian and Mediterranean diet near on the same. Uh, when you're putting a lot more plants into your diet, because Mediterranean diet it's a plant predominant diet with a very, very tiny bit of meat and fish, maybe once a week, twice a week, and nothing bigger than like a deck of cards. So a flexitarian diet it is, but also like I don't know if because obviously in a Mediterranean diet, we're also not having junk foods in there at all because it's very non-existent there. So I don't know, are these flexitarians? I don't know how much information they have there, but is that weight loss with junk foods in as well?
No. So the common theme of all the top sort of diets for
Kind of
weight
like
loss or
clean,
dietary patterns. Oh, pardon?
is this kind of like like clean eating diets, I'm guessing?
Yeah, how they categorize it is minimally processed foods.
Mm.
So hardly any processed foods, dietary patterns that are high in plant proteins, less animal-based products, and plenty of fruit and vegetables. So both the Mediterranean and flexitarian is minimal processed foods.
Okay, yeah, yeah. But that's the thing. When I think like a very westernized flexitarian diet in my head normally is kind of like I'm gonna go to Burger King and get plant-based nuggets today instead of chicken nuggets. And that's normally how I see a flexitarian diet. But also that's how it's portrayed really over here, more than actual definition of it.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, I hadn't seen it from that point of view. Obviously, 'cause I've just got, I've looked at the studies, but yeah, you're exactly right. So it is all about how we interpret the information as well. Because people could think, flexitarian, yeah, I can eat a lot of, sort of like highly processed foods all the time. So
Mm.
that is a really good point. Yeah. So I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, back to go on.
oh yeah, no, I was just about to say that when it comes down to flexitarian, I think this is especially in I think the last 2 years it's become a huge thing now, where people don't want to go plant-based, but they want to reduce meat consumption, so they kind of switch between the two. So maybe one day they have a plant burger, sometimes they have a meat burger, and that's how I've seen it defined. But yeah, I think everything needs definition as well. Whenever we look into anything these days as well, because we can go on into vegan diets, obviously being the fourth one, but is this a healthy vegan diet or is this well, I also from that study as well, it said obviously replacing nutrients. So I don't know what these people are eating. Because also to have to replace a huge amount, because there's not much we actually have to consume to get the right nutrients. So it might be a very
Yeah.
healthy vegan diet compared to a healthier, because also vegan diet compared to plant-based diet are two also very different things. A vegan diet is predominantly processed.
Yeah, that's another good point because the difference there is you'll hear the two words used interchangeably, won't you? So a vegan diet will tell us that someone is not consuming any animal derived products at all.
Mm.
But you could also have as you know, like an eating pattern that's high in Oreos, French fries, and all the highly processed
Mm.
Galaxy vegan chocolate bars that are out now. Whereas a whole food plant-based diet tells us that you're eating fruits, vegetables, things that are grown from the ground, legumes, chickpeas, and it's based predominantly on those whole foods and less of the processed foods, which is where we know all the benefits come from for our gut microbiome, chronic disease, and weight loss. So I'm glad you raised that point. And when the study, you are right about things that we replace. I mean, it's because people have to think a bit more and they have perceive to think a bit more about the other nutrients. So, B12 supplement, for example, vitamin D, but everyone has a vitamin D supplement or recommended to in the winter months, don't they? Because of our sunshine in the UK. That's not just someone who eats plant-based.
And I think it also with the B12 thing it's very ironic, because most livestock are also supplemented B12. So no matter what diet we're on, we are supplementing B12 in some way or another. Like me, I'd rather take it a tablet form, or some people take it by oral form, whereas some people don't realize that Cows just don't produce it. It's not a produced thing by cows. It's the soil. And so most people, most cattle, pigs, all those are now getting supplemented, especially in like giant factory farms. So, and this is just where the majority of meat's coming from. So we're all getting supplemented in some way. So it's very ironic that they're like, nutrients.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So we just skip out the middleman and we take the B12 supplement ourselves. So,
Yeah.
but
And
yeah, you're right.
about also on a vegan or plant-based diet can sometimes be omega-3s, but that it also really counts as what you're eating. But if you're not a nut and seed fan, if you don't eat avocados, other things, bits and pieces, you're not going to be getting a great amount of omega-3. But obviously, for that conversion to happen.
Yeah, you're right there about the omega-3s. A lot of people think that we need to eat the fish to get the omega-3, don't we? But again, you can have all the plant-based options and sources of them with the nuts and seeds and green leafy veg, and choose to supplement with an algae-based supplement if you wish to. That's where the fish get it from, isn't it? The marine algae.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the thing. Like, it's just knowing where to get nutrition from, because I think for me, being so far along in my journey into plant-based or vegan, whatever you want to call it, I think I'd call myself a plant-based vegan, if anything, because I'm on a very whole foods plant-based diet, but I would still consider myself a vegan. Although I try to not eat as many of the processed foods as I should, as most people assume I would be. But because I'm on that journey and I find it very easy now to find the nutrients that I need, when I need it, where to get it from, how to get it, all those different bits. So I think people on that journey, obviously me being there for like quite a few years, to that day one journey, it can be a very overwhelming, kind of looking at the information and being like, oh, I need B12. Okay, we can source that from here. They'd be like, oh, I need omega-3, especially all the other nutrients as well, like iodine and other bits and pieces that could be slightly lower in plant-based foods than other foods. It might be very overwhelming, and I could see why people would think it's restrictive or scary at first until they get into it and realize it's actually not. There's just a lot of information that makes it look a lot bigger than it actually is.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, when you make the change, it's so easy and it's so satisfying. Like the foods, the choices, it really opens up a whole different variety of foods because you're not cooking with chicken and veg and steak and veg. You've got so many other plant-based proteins you can get in there. And that's what I find people are saying, you know, when they're making the change, which is easier for us to say and easier for us to support people, because they're excited to try new different foods. They're feeling fuller for longer, way more satisfied, you know, having lots more energy as well. So there really is so many different benefits to having the plant-based foods than having animal-derived foods as well.
Absolutely. So when we jump back into diets, because obviously we've touched on keto diet. So let's go into the very low calorie diets, the 1,200 calories or less diets. The diets, it's a hard one. Obviously, 1,200 calories is the nutritional requirements for a toddler. So I don't see why I don't see why this is a thing that needs to be discussed. But it seems that everywhere I look, there's people on these very low calories. And I just don't see how it's, again, sustainable, how you're not constantly hungry all the time. Obviously you get a weight loss because you're eating such a low amount of calories to what you would be, but do they work? Can we maintain them?
This is a good question. So I know, yeah, this is a good question. So I know in the NHS, they are doing trials and studies at the moment. So there are some studies coming out where people are following 800 calories a day, like 800 calories of food intake per day. Now that is really, really low. So these diets are getting people to lose weight, get them into diabetes remission, improving insulin sensitivity. But I think the average might be about 50% of people who can maintain it, whereas the other 50% of people can't, because it's difficult. And there's other ways, there's better ways. Like we know from the studies and through experience that you can eat mostly without restriction, your 3 meals a day without restricting calories, and still reverse your type 2 diabetes or improve your insulin resistance and lose weight. So, but it's very difficult for people when they see a lot of social media content. I think that's what they need to do. And obviously everyone's requirements are going to be different. If you're shorter in height, and you're a bit older, you're going to need less calories. But yeah, I agree. It's that's a low calorie range to go for.
See, obviously it's never going to be sustainable because I don't think anybody can happily live on like 800 to 1,200 calories per day. For one, my breakfast is 800 calories. So
what are you eating for breakfast?
So I have a huge oatmeal bowl. So it'd be kind of like we pour a lot of nuts, seeds, fruit, peanut butter, and I think it's about 785, but that's before I go for a run as well. So I have to energize myself before that. But yeah, it's probably it's piled. It's very piled, and yeah, it's oats, coconut water, chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, peanut butter, and then just a huge array of fruit, and yeah, things like a cup and a half of oats as well. So there's a huge quantity.
I'm really hungry. I need to go and eat some food after you told me that. But yeah, as you just said, you're really active. You're going for a run as well. So everyone's energy needs are going to be so different, aren't they? If you're an athlete, if you're a runner, if you're doing your strength training, you're going to have such high energy calorie intake needs than you are to someone else who's completely sedentary, and would need to eat less. But I guess these diets that are like 800 calories, where the trials are, they are short term. They're for people who are literally going to do it for 8 weeks and need to start reintroducing the food. But it is a hard one to maintain. And I think people who are doing these trials or the experiments and studies, they're supported. They've got nutritionists or dietitians on hand. They've got doctors. They've got the support. You're in an NHS-based program. Whereas people who are members of the public who are seeing this and trying it and thinking, hey, I'll give it a go, you're probably not, they're not lasting very long. And that's just always associated with feelings of, failing, or the need then to go and overeat because you've restricted your calorie intake too much. I mean, I couldn't survive on 800 calories a day. I maybe for a couple of days I could do it, but I'd be feeling pretty rubbish and groggy and really low in energy, and I'd be pretty miserable if it was me.
That's definitely where nutrient deficiencies come in as well, like especially if you're doing this over a long term period. Like I don't know, if you're gonna do this like 2 or 3 months on 800, maybe that there's no way you can be getting the right amount of nutrients in your diet from such low calories.
No, you think there'd have to be some vitamin supplementation there somehow, wouldn't you? I think so.
That's the thing. Yeah. For the right amount, like even specifically for let's say your protein requirements, like no matter what diet we're on here, that's going to take up a large chunk just to keep you at let's say your 50 to 60 grams per day, and then having your kind of a decent fat requirement while having energy from carbs. And then obviously with your vitamins, all those, there must be something else there in place, because that's just going to lead you down such a strange little path. But these people doing it without dietitians or nutritional experts, like with them, they're just they're seeing something on social media and they're like, oh yeah, this is a great thing to do. And it's just, and they wonder why it doesn't work out for them. And I feel like anybody could have told them that in the first place. Like that, it just doesn't look sustainable or great. And why does anybody want to restrict themselves that much?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's people just want the quick the weight loss off. People just want the weight gone, and any quick way that they hear it can happen, they want to do. And we see it when people come to us in my NHS weight management job. They've tried them all. They really have tried them all. It's not something I recommend. I don't work with anyone, and I wouldn't work with anyone who wants to do a 800 calorie a day diet. I just wouldn't. It wouldn't be my ethos. It's not what I'm about. I'm about eating more volume. Eating more volume, more plant-based foods, and trying to get people to move away from that fatty diet where they think they need to restrict the calorie intake so much that they're going to get the weight down. So yeah, I'm not a fan.
This kind of leads into, for me, with low calorie diets, is intermittent fasting. It's basically a low calorie diet. I know there is benefits to intermittent fasting, especially when it comes to gut, your gut microbiome and that. But I feel like if you're going to intermittent fast, then make up the calories somewhere else for the day. But people don't, and they kind of be like, if they're kind of doing then a lunch and a dinner, then you've literally just circled back around to a low calorie diet.
Yes, I know they can work for weight loss in the sense that you just cut your eating window, don't you? Whereas you don't eat past 6, so you're just not consuming the calories. So you're basically reducing your calorie intake for that day. So therefore it's going to essentially work. But yeah, I have had people come to me where they've done intermittent fasting, and like you said, there are benefits metabolically. We know that it can help in that respect, in respects for weight loss. People have just come to me when they're eating in a 4-hour window and they're fasting the rest of the time. So 4-hour window just to eat food, that's a lot of food in one go for your gut to digest. And that's, people have had abdominal pain, constipation again, because you're not eating across all that window. So it can work for some. Sometimes people like starting their day a little bit later when they're starting to eat for breakfast. But yes, it's another weight loss diet as well, isn't it?
That's the thing. Like, I see so many people do it, and not necessarily for weight loss. The people that don't do it for weight loss are thriving, because they will, like, literally, let's say, hit the 12 o'clock period, then they start eating, but then they will carry on having 3 meals a day just in that period, or that at least they have 2 meals a day, but they're higher portioned. So it kind of fits in everything else that they would have been having anyway. But it's the people that use it kind of as a 2 meals per day, and you're kind of like, just admit that you're on a low calorie diet. Just admit it. Like that's literally what you're trying to do. You just want to sound a bit fancier with it.
Yeah, I think it's whatever's the kind of comes up as maybe the latest trend or what's in the media, and it becomes really appealing to people, doesn't it? So like I always find that if something, fiber, plant foods, that wouldn't sell, how that's going to help people lose weight. But if you put on the headlines, you've got intermittent fasting, or start your day with your bulletproof coffee, which is coffee laden with fat, that's like, oh, what is that? Oh, that's exciting.
That bulletproof coffee makes me feel ill, isn't it? It's more in America, I think, than over here, which I've never seen anybody happily say they do it over here. But in America, it's a stick of butter, isn't it? And you're in a black coffee. I'm like, ugh. I mean, that's surely going to have some health risks later on down the road.
Yes, exactly. And it's and again, it's what's appealing to people, isn't it? What sells and what grabs the media line.
So bulletproof coffee, intermittent fasting, I get. Bulletproof coffee, I don't. Juice cleansers, I really can't get behind them. Yes, like I love this. I love a smoothie. It's not for weight loss. I just love a smoothie. But people doing smoothies 3 to 4 times a day, eating nothing else, is I don't know why I don't know why we're still playing with the idea that this is a great idea for getting your nutrients in, because obviously there's moments when you're breaking down your nutrients by blending things, so you're also going to have less of a nutrient, like iron for such. Iron, yes, you're still going to get iron, but if you blend it down, you're going to have less than you could have been having. And yeah, of course, it's going to be more absorbent because with a lot of vitamin C, but still you're going to be getting less and absorbing less.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just so appealing to people, isn't it? To do something, to have that to focus on. It'd be a quick win for weight loss. But as we know, at the end of it, you're going to be deficient, you're probably going to be a bit more hungry, you're not going to be full, and the weight is going to come back on as well. So I still, like I said at the start, I still see people trying to do juice cleanses, and they're sold as well in the way that the juice cleanse will detoxify the body, and people generally believe that literally that they will detoxify the body, whereas we know that the human body is amazing, it's fantastic. We've got the kidneys, we've got the liver, they all will detoxify and filter all the toxins out of our body. So we don't need to do the juice cleanse to do that, but that's how it's sold as well, that's how it's marketed. And it's very good marketing and selling ploy, because that's what drags people in. So I'm with you on that one. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to hear people go through this and think that's what they need to do to get there. Whereas, there's another way, there's a better way. So I'm with you on that one.
I actually feel more sorry for the bowels of those people.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing solid there. I don't know how it's ever gonna, how you're functioning properly or wanting to feel like that. But it is the same with these like little detox teas as well. And once again, it's not fun. It's just it's heartbreaking to see so many people jump onto these. But it's the same thing. Like even working online on places like Instagram, you'll type in hashtag like plant-based diet, and I now don't use that hashtag anymore for my hashtags all use, because every time I actually went on there, it was just juice plus, juice plus, juice plus, juice plus, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Then you're just in the middle of all of that. So if somebody's looking for plant-based diet, they'd be like scrolling. You'll be like, oh, I need to get past this, past this, past this, and you realize it's about 10 pages full of juice cleanses, those fake weight loss pictures, where clearly a different person in the picture. And I was kind of like, and I was stuck in the middle of those. I was kind of like, so nobody's going to take that time to look at that picture, because it's more or less going to be the same as everyone else here, or they assume that anyway. But it's weird when you look into any diet trend, especially on Instagram, and you use those hashtags, it is just juice plus everywhere. It is detox teas everywhere, and it's these fake weight loss transitions, and you can see why as well people get sucked in, because they'll be like, oh, you'll see this picture and you'll see someone that was very, very overweight, and then I see someone that'll be like, oh, 3 months later they had this. I'm like, looks great. Like if that could happen and that was a sustainable thing, perfect. It's not possible, for one. Two, they're not the same person. And it's just, I feel people want to see what they want to see. So even if they can tell it's not the same person, they know it's not going to be that. There's always that hope there, and it is selling hope. These juice people are selling hope, but also false hope.
Yeah, that is right. Yeah. So anyone listening, like, don't buy into these Instagram pictures. I can look at them and tell they're fake. I can see they either look like they've been filtered or stretched and shrinked. Like, it's insane, Like I say, people are buying into it. And got to remember, before I had the nutrition knowledge, I too was like, yeah, I'm going to do a lemonade diet. And I didn't know that about plant-based diets and literally the hashtags of the juice cleanses and stuff come up. But I have seen things on social media that are like, do this juice cleanse and lose 10 kilograms in 1 week. Like 10 kilograms in 1 week. That is just insane. That is just not even possible.
It's not possible, is it?
No. And I've seen things with, like literally drink hot water and lemon all day to lose weight. And people selling these things. And I think when you're vulnerable and you literally feel desperate, you want to lose the weight, you're drawn in. You're drawn into the lovely pictures. Yeah, and it just becomes harder and harder for the person then, because they do these, they're unsustainable, and then you end up going back to overeating, usually because you're feeling a bit crappy, then you go back to restriction, so you end up going to that back and forth cycle again. So social media is becoming better in the sense that there are more doctors out there now, nutritionists, dietitians out there, but there's also people who are not qualified to give the information, and they're the ones I think we need to be careful with, and the ones that are doctoring the pictures and filtering them, which is a lot on social media. There should be a ban on filtering pictures. That is a thing in one country, isn't it? Like, one country's literally banned any filtering on pictures on social media. I can't remember who it is. Sweden, maybe. Don't quote me.
I feel like a great idea, and at the same time, also getting. I think obviously, doctoring pictures, great idea. Also, I think there should be a ban around these self-proclaimed nutrition people.
Mm-hmm.
Also, giving out like fake advice. That there needs to be something doctoring that, making sure that there is. I don't know how it would ever work. I think it's probably an impossible thing in the grand scheme of things, because obviously it's not kind of like Instagram or Facebook, they ban anything that is sexual related. I think that's very easy to pick up and pop up and that, but when it's somebody writing, talking about certain nutrients, how certain things help, how certain things don't, when it's literally like a snake oil salesman coming in with some people, and it's kind of, we need to find a way to kind of ways to doctor this, make sure it's not always public, and or at least have a warning, kind of like they've got the COVID warnings now. It's kind of like, oh, this may be COVID related, and something like that. This the same way as Twitter do with Trump when he was in power.
Oh, let's not get onto politics. You won't have enough time. No, I wish that was, even possible. I guess if anyone is listening, I mean, maybe a way of like, someone you're following, check their background, check their credentials. Don't just follow these huge, massive groups or, accounts have massive and massive followings. And like you say, you've got the fake pictures. They're promising things that are just unsustainable. So like you say, the juice cleanse, 10 kilograms weight loss in 1 week, a stone like weight loss in 1 week, or something that's just unrealistic. But yes, I do love the idea.
It's also the same with celebrities. They're then somehow endorsing let's say a weight loss tea, and then talking nutrition. I'm like, right, last week you saw them on Geordie Shore. They have not then got a qualification in that week. So it's also looking out for those right people. And obviously, yes, people like to look up to celebrities, but celebrities aren't always the best people to look up to in relation to diets. Just because they say they're doing something, half the time they're not. They're just getting paid to promote something.
Yeah, so be a bit wary about that. I mean, I didn't know like weight loss teas were still a thing. Is that still being promoted?
I'm not too sure I don't think with celebrities anymore much. I think they're just there. But it's the same with any kind of like Juice Plus or skinny teas or any of those kind of things. They just float around for a bit and then hopefully one day will die off. But you can go buy Holland and Barrett, which is surprising because it's meant to be a health food store. But you can still buy it there. So it really blows my mind. So when we talk about weight loss, obviously we know it's not a linear process, and it's never going to be a linear process. So what is a realistic rate of weight loss to be able to keep it off also long term?
Yeah, it's a good question, a good point to discuss, so people out there can be aware, because everyone thinks that it's like £5, £7 per week, but it's not. So to keep it off, we want to look at losing anything like £1 to £2 per week, even half a pound to £2 per week, just to make those small changes. So it's not a huge jump for people, and that's what's going to keep the weight off long term. So if you're talking in terms of calories, you could be looking at keeping it really flexible, having a reduction of 300 calories a day Or you could try and go a little bit higher and go for 600 calories a day reduction to get that £2 weight loss per week. But people are becoming disheartened. So I don't know what you see, but I see people losing anything from half a pound to a pound and being frustrated. They want it off quicker. They want 5, 6, 7 more weight. And then they become frustrated, whereas it's just trying to change their mindset that, look, this is what's going to keep it off long term. This is what's needed for it to be sustainable, not the quick fatty diets that you've been exposed to in the past. So what do you tend to see people, the weight loss people expect to see?
That's the thing. That's why I like to ask them at first before they even start anything. It's been like, what do you expect? What do you expect from weight loss? What do you expect to see every week? And some people you'd be like, oh, like a pound, maybe £2. I was like, well, that is a realistic look. That depending how low we're going to go. When I say low we're going to go, I'm not going too low, because I feel like I'm just going to throw myself out there. That looks like I am promoting very low calories. No, lowest I'd go for anybody would be about 400 from what they should be having. Any lower than that, I really don't want to play with. That I just don't feel it's a sustainable way. But also I do get people that they are like, oh, I think it's acceptable to do like 5 to 6. I'm like, well, we're gonna have to change your mindset now, because it's not possible on a sustainable diet. Yes, quick fixes. It's very easy to get some kind of results in the first week like that, but after that it's going to slow down again. So it is finding out what they want first, and then if they want something that is like a 5 to 6 a week, 5 to 6 to 7 a week, I won't work with them, because I'm not going to put myself through that either, because that's just against what I would any advice I'd give. So it is, and then kind of explaining to these people that there's no linear process, because you could have had more carbs in one day, you could have had more water in one day, you could have had various different amounts, you could have been carrying water weight. There's various different reasons for fluctuation throughout the day. And that's the thing, people don't realize we fluctuate throughout the day. So yes, in the morning I may be a bit more dehydrated, so it's kind of, you know what, I'm let's say I'm 10 stone 5 today, and then in the afternoon I'll be 10 stone 10, because it can fluctuate 5 to 7, I think, is it 5 to 7 each day, or lower? 7 or lower.
Do you know, I don't know the exact range it would fluctuate, but you are right, it will fluctuate. And I think it's really important to say, you know, to discuss your client's expectations at the start. We know that our weight fluctuates throughout the day, especially women, menstrual cycle, bowel movement, the amount of fluid we're intaking. The scales are great to help you monitor your progress, but they can also be your worst enemy. Sometimes I'm like, chuck the scales out, you know, they are not serving you. So I find with my clients, you need, as you do as well, you need a whole holistic approach as to monitoring your progress. So yes, use the scales if it's not going to affect your mental health and well-being, and you can use other ways to monitor your progress. For example, your clothes, how are they fitting? Are you doing exercise? Are you running more? Are you able to do more squats? Are you able to get up the stairs more? Is your sleep better? How's your mood? There's all these other things to monitor alongside the scales. But I don't know about you, but I do find that some people, we use the scales at the start point, and at the end we might not touch them for 3 months if there's a bit of a trigger there. Are you the same?
I'm exactly the same. Like, weigh yourself first, and by the end of your progress, weigh yourself then. But at the same time, it's how you feel more than your weight loss. If you feel like you look better, then, or you feel like you feel better, that's better than any kind of weight loss as such. Because if you're feeling better, also the fact that, let's say these people are wanting to lose weight, but are also going to the gym at the same time, muscle does way more. It's kind of like, you may be just kind of, what people may think is like plateauing, but they've lost the weight, but they've just built a muscle at the same point. or the fact that they're just built, like, yes, they've lost the weight at first. Now they're going to the gym and they're building it back. They're building more and more muscle, which is obviously going to make them weigh more. And I'm like, it's all to do with how you feel. Like, scales are the devil's work. Um, and they put such a harsh expectation on people on what they can achieve, what they can't achieve, and they're not always entirely accurate. There's
Yeah.
So I've had some scales at home. I went to the ones at the gym and somewhere else once, and all three of these things, this is just like an experiment, all three of these things said a separate weight. So I don't know how accurate they are. Obviously, it's the person setting them up that would say how accurate it is. And obviously when you buy them, you're hoping that somebody is, or you don't know the check-in process. So you're just going with what you think's there.
Wow, that's so interesting that you did that experiment and got all those different weights, because people are fixated on the scales. And I think that when even I see people for support for weight loss, we try and take the fixation away from the scales and look at things like how you're feeling, what are your like non-scale victories, what have you achieved this week, and focusing on those things, like you say, because the scales can be people's worst enemy. I've spoken to people who have literally been weighing 7 up to 20 times in one day. Can you imagine how that you're going to feel if you're literally checking your weight from 7 to 20 times a day?
It'll affect your mental health so much, because you're literally just, you're hyper focused on something very minuscule, but because these weights are then conducting their life.
Yeah, it's awful. Like that, like you say, your mental health, you're going to be feeling, really low in mood, really sad, really frustrated. That's going to affect your self-esteem, your confidence as well, for example. And that's going to lead to really unhealthy behaviors. That can lead people into restricting their food even more, skipping meals, not eating for days because they just think, oh my God, why aren't the scales changing? So if we can shift the focus off the scales, and like you said, start endpoint, I see better progress with people when we have the weight checked at the start and the end point. And like you said, if you're doing gym or weight training, your body shape will change. You'll notice change on the inches around your body, especially around that hip, that waist, the bust. But the scales might not even move much, but you will feel better, and you'll look better in yourself as well. But it's using the guidance of scales. If they don't affect your mental health, I say okay, use them. But if it is, I say ditch them.
That's the thing. Like, I've got some in my house. They no longer have batteries in them, or they haven't had batteries in them for a while, because I don't know if I trust them. And I think also I would, like, years ago I would have got into the habit of checking in the morning in the daytime to see how much you fluctuate, and then taking that as complete gospel, or being like, oh, maybe too much. And then when you actually look into the nutritional sides of it, this could be anything. That could be just, I drank a hell of a lot more water today than I do normally. And I just don't think that there's any need for them. It needs to be about how you feel in yourself, because that's going to make you happy. Because you can lose all the weight you like, but if you're still not happy in yourself, what was the point?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, actually. Before I studied nutrition, I used to have weighing scales. I would check my weight all the time, like probably like I think maybe every day or every few days. Like what like I literally I have scales here, either batteries don't work. I got them because I needed to check my little boy's weight when he was a baby and we had no health visitors, for example. So I was like, I got to check my son's weight, but I don't check my weight. I see how I go on how I feel and how my clothes fit and my energy levels at the gym. I go on things like that, which is what we help our clients do as well, isn't it?
So how do we feel? Obviously, we know how we feel about scales, but how do you feel about calorie counting?
Oh, interesting question. I can't wait to hear your response as well. But calorie counting, Okay, so I've got two mixed feelings about this. I think if it's in terms of weight loss, then you don't need to count calories to lose weight. So I think that's quite important for people to know. You don't actually need to count calories to lose weight. You need an awareness of calories of food. So, for example, like which maybe milks might be higher or lower in calories, or like bread, for example. So slices of bread can vary from 50 calories to 160 calories. So some calorie awareness of types of food which are higher or lower is going to help you, but you do not need to count calories to lose weight. So with my clients, we don't do calorie counting. So we don't do it and they lose weight. But at some point, I have had clients who haven't been losing weight. Then that's when we start getting that's when we will start doing a track of calories. It might be for 3 days, anywhere from 3 to 7 days, to see what's going on. Short term, we do that, give some support, and then we scrap it. So that's what I do with the calorie intake. What do you do?
Depends on whether, so my personal opinions and then what I do for work vary. So obviously I deal with a lot of athletes and bodybuilders, then yes, then you should be tracking calories. If you are, let's say, an ultra athlete and you need 4,000 calories a day, then maybe you should be tracking to make sure you've got that for the energy. When it comes to losing weight or just sustaining weight, no, not at all. I feel like if you have a goal as if you were to be a bodybuilder, like you need to be knowing your actual consumption or a rough estimate until you get that into that intuitive eating. So after a while, you will get that. So yes, in the first kind of month or so, maybe track, but after that, scrap it. But you also, I don't think we should rely on calorie counting apps. Because once again, it is like the weight loss thing. You're panicking if one thing that you're gonna eat is going to take you over this limit that you put yourself on, or maybe you haven't eaten that much a day and it's constantly checking. It's also food as such. Like if we look at, for instance, a medium banana, like yes, it may be 90 calories for a medium banana, but not all medium bananas are the same thing or the same calories. So a medium banana, if it's got 2 inches more, still gets a medium banana, but it might get 110 calories. And it's kind of been like, where do we draw the line at that? Because obviously you think you've eaten however much, but it could be actually 30 to 40 more. And then people will get very disheartened by that because they're like, oh, like I've eaten way too much. I'm like, you haven't. You've literally eaten 40 calories more. It's not a big issue. And then it becomes, once again, it then plays into the mental health of people because it's that they then get hyper focused on calorie counting. And I get if you wanted to lose weight and you're sticking to like a 400 calorie deficit, maybe for the first 2 weeks, great, do it. Just so you know what you're doing, and to get that intuitiveness. But scrap it after, because I managed to do it. MyFitnessPal, years ago, I was constantly tracking everything, and I'd be disheartened. And also was gaining weight. But also, we have to realize there's other things in play here. It's not just your food; it's your exercise. If you're sitting down in an office all day, then that's going to play some role in it as well, because you're not really moving. And I feel like, yes, calories great, but also you need to work on other aspects of your life as well for this to actually work.
Yeah, I agree. I've had that as well with people who are doing calorie counting, and they've come to me and they've gone like 50 calories over, and they're like, oh my goodness, I've done awful. I've had like the worst couple of days here. I'm like, okay, tell me what's been the worst about it. And it is, I've gone 50 calories over my range, and that's not what we want. That's not how we want people to feel either, is it? So I do the same. I mean, yes, you have to be in a calorie deficit if you want to lose weight, but you can still eat to hunger and fullness signals once you start being intuitive, like you say, and not have to do the calorie counting. Like, yes, education is needed to know which foods are going to fuel your body a bit more, which ones are more nutrients, which ones are less nutritious, for example. And like you say, when you're working with athletes, yeah, 100%, you've got high needs there, haven't you? High needs that you want to make sure are met, and there's a time and a place for it. So absolutely agree.
The thing that absolutely is a time and a place. Like, if you have goals that you need to achieve, then yes, absolutely. But then other than that, there is no point. And it is also working out people's actual needs and wants, because people are asked, the general public are given the information to make an informed choice about that food, and most people don't have that the nutrition knowledge. So they'll be like, oh, this looks healthy, this should be healthy, but it might not be, and it's because they don't have the knowledge there. It's kind of the same with portion sizes. If you go with the back of this, let's say for instance, a cereal box, like it'll be like, oh, it's a 30-gram portion. Now we all know a 30-gram portion is not going to be enough for anybody, because it looks like you put like 2 things in a bowl. And nobody in their right mind is ever going to eat that. They're then going to have a second portion or a third portion, because it's the nutrient density of it. And I think letting people have these informed choices as well, of being like, you could have this, or you could have something else, which is exactly the same. It's going to fill you up, because that cereal, you're going to be hungry in what's it called? 2 hours time, be starving, because it's very calorie dense, but it's not nutritionally sound. And the general public don't have this nutritional knowledge to work out what they need, what they don't need, and they're expected to make informed choices about something they have no idea about. So that's the thing. Like, I could be like, so they have this very small portion of cereal, then they up it twice, maybe 3 times, be like, that looks like it's enough now, because the 30 grams doesn't look like it's enough. And then they've gone up and they've eaten, I don't know how much a portion of cereal is. I'm guessing it's about 300 calories at most. So they've already gone to 900 just on that. Whereas you could literally have a bowl of oats with some fruit. Obviously not my one, but which would be a lot smaller in calories, but also more nutrient dense, and you're not going to be feeling hungry in 2 hours. And it's having people with no knowledge making informed decisions about their own choices. And I feel like that's where everything's going wrong.
Yeah, it's diet quality. The quality of the food and the diet is more important. So like you've just said, like someone could follow a 1,500 calorie diet, but it could be full of Oreos, French fries, foods are just not going to give you the nutrients that you need. Whereas the quality of the diet, if you're going to go for those foods that are, whole foods, like your porridge oats, your fruits, your nuts, your seeds, your plant proteins, your chickpeas, your lentils, that's all going to serve you a lot better and keep you fuller for longer. It's full of fiber, than just focusing on the calories and going 50 calories over, for sure.
That's the thing. Like, I feel like once there's, I feel like in schools there should be some kind of some kind of teaching about food, because obviously you normally get that, the plate with like, you need your protein, you need your calcium, you need that, but that's all you learn really about, and that's normally in about year 4, and then after that nothing's ever taught again. It's kind of like, so we're taught to make this choice at the age of like 7. And they'd be like, and from then on through high school, now, it's not touched on again really at all. So by the time we've actually gotten to that age where we left school, we're clueless. Nobody's remembering this.
No, I literally can't remember anything that we were taught in school related to food or nutrition. Not anything at all. But I don't remember any education in school, and I think it's like a lot of it's probably down to parents, and it's hard for parents as well, because of all the mixed messages. They're like, oh my god, do I give my child no sugar at all, or do I give them a little bit here and there? It's really confusing, for everybody. And I think, yeah, maybe that's another place, that's a whole different topic to get into schools, isn't it? That's where, a really good focus of things where it could be a lot better. But I don't have enough knowledge to go into like even knowing what policies and what education there is around that area.
See, also, when it comes to diet, it's also to do with what's being passed down from mother to child, then to child to the next generation coming along after. Because if let's say my father was constantly eating pizzas and junk food, and I'd grow up learning that I should be eating this every day, and then having a really awful diet, and then passing that on to my kids, because I think that's normal, because it's just been generations upon generations of eating like that. And that's the thing, these are slowly starting to build up very bad habits, as well as not helping with chronic diseases like diabetes, because we're now in a epidemic of diabetes. It's becoming a bigger and bigger thing every year, and this is down to people just not knowing how they're meant to eat as well. But I think we all know that if we're going to eat a pizza a day, it's not going to be good. But people don't know how. Also, people aren't taught how to cook fresh food.
Yeah, it's a lot of things that come into play in this situation, isn't it? It's the it's the knowledge, it's the availability of the food. There's just so many things. Like we had a conversation about this the other day, actually, about, as you know, and it's not all down to the parent. There are other factors that people are exposed to that are going to affect eating habits and lifestyle and behavior. But also, if you do have someone if you're surrounded by someone who's always talking about, I need to go on a diet, I look, these are the terminology that people use. I look fat. I don't like my stomach. I don't like my bump. So if you're using these terminologies around children, they hear this is what they're going to think. They're going to, they're going to think this as well. So I guess it's been a way of language you use around children as well. And, sometimes, kids are also going to slimming groups at a young age. Maybe parents are taking their children there because they've got nowhere for babysitting, and you go to slimming groups and you can hear about how food is referred to as sins, for example. So, I mean, that's not a healthy behavior in itself either. So, yeah, it's really difficult. It's really difficult and challenging. So I guess now, hopefully, it's becoming a little bit better with a little bit more of the education as we get older, and we can pass it down to, to children. And there's a lot of scientific evidence and studies, because that's what we want. We want to get our evidence from, our knowledge from evidence-based practice. I couldn't say the word then, evidence-based practice and scientific studies, which it is all out there, isn't it? About eating more plants, more predominantly plant-based diet.
That's especially with that you mentioned sins and Slimming World. I hate it. It just blows my mind, like, because a family member of mine went to Slimming World, and I was like, we could definitely do this easier than you paying a weekly fee. We could really sort this out, but insisted on Slimming World and everything being in sins, and I'm like, but also don't really understand how it works. They're like, oh, rice is 0 sins, so you can eat as much rice as you want, apparently. So I could eat 3,000 calories worth of rice and it'd be absolutely fine, because I wouldn't gain weight. But we know that's not how it works. But also you're demonized for things like an avocado, which is like, I think it's like 6 sins or something, but then a Snickers bar is 2. I'm like, I don't see how this can be shown that it's a great thing, because obviously this an avocado, so many micronutrients, so many things great for your body. Snickers bar, not so much. And it's really showing that, being like, oh, the Snickers is the healthier option for you.
Yeah, it's a minefield, isn't it? And you can see why people are just absolutely so confused. They are so confused. And yeah, the sins is like, I mean, I don't know much about the Slimming World diet, but I know where you can have like Muller Light yogurts and Baby Bells and lots of things that are sin-free and limited amounts of other foods. But I think, it does all get you out of tune with what's got more nutrients in and what's less, and what's going to fuel your body and what's going to give you more energy, what's going to be a quick fix, what's your long lasting energy. It's all those sorts of things, isn't it? So I do know they promote, that kind of like having that half plate of vegetables, which is what we want to go for if we are trying to lose weight. You really want your plate to be packed full, half of vegetables or salad, quarter of it being your carbs, so any bread, pasta, rice, not unlimited, and quarter of it being the protein. I'm going to offer a plant protein, not an animal derived protein, obviously. So I do know I'm pretty sure they have that focus in there, which I'm pleased about. Not so much pleased about the sins and having that negative relationship with food then, that people think, oh, I can't have that, it's a sin. I can't have the avocado, I can't have like higher fat content foods.
That's the thing. It is creating such a negative mindset towards food, and I think that's the same with any of those diets. They have a separate name for each and everything, which would demonize a food for being just a food.
That is, yeah, I like that sentence. It is, it is a food. It is a food, isn't it? And I think now there's a lot of people coming through with more disordered eating, eating disorders, for example. And we are, yes, I'm promoting a predominantly plant-based diet, but also don't restrict certain foods as well. Like if you want to have a bit of cake or a bit of chocolate, incorporate it into the week. Just don't have it the full emphasis of your diet. Eat mostly plant-based foods, and have some of the foods that you enjoy, like that bit of cake or a bit of chocolate. And yeah, don't demonize it. It's a biscuit if you want it. If you want it, have it.
That's the thing, especially I've just been away, and obviously on a day-to-day basis, I eat a very whole foods plant-based diet. But when I'm away, there's not many restaurants do a whole foods plant-based diet menu. It's very much Beyond Burger or anything else. And I was like, I'm not going to restrict myself for the 2 days that I'm there. I will eat this. Obviously, when I get back, I will go back to how I was. That 2 days isn't really going to matter. It's not going to really affect my health. And your body is great at bouncing back.
Yeah, I'm the same. I eat mostly whole foods, but I do have I'll say I do have pizza. I do have a burger, like a bean burger. I don't like the fake sort of meat products. That's just my taste preference as well. And I do have other things, like I have chocolate, but I just know I don't feel great if I was to eat it a lot. So I just have it in moderation. Whereas if I want it, I will have it. But the more we tell ourselves, the more we tell ourselves to restrict it or not to have anything at all, we're likely going to crave it. So this is where people fall into that trap when they're trying to lose weight and they say, right, I'm going to cut out all sugar and I'm not going to have anything at all. And that can lead to that food restriction can lead to craving that food even more, becoming more desirable. And then you just end up overeating it. So it's just find a way to incorporate it into the week and have it in small bits.
We can really play into binge eating disorders as well. There's people, I know a few people that have restricted themselves so much during the week, being like, oh, I'm on a diet. It's very low calories. Then it gets to the weekend, be like, oh, I'll have a slice of pizza. That slice of pizza will then go into a whole pizza, and then maybe some Ben and Jerry's afterwards, a few cookies, everything else. Because once you've got a taste for it, you don't want to stop eating. And it is very much, don't restrict yourself to the point that you're going to binge, because it's not going to play well in your favor whatsoever.
Yeah, this happens a lot. I see a lot of people like this, very, very restrictive all week, and then the weekend is constant binging, or constant, I'm not going to use the word binging, I'm going to say like constant overeating on all these types of food. Monday comes, the heavy restriction starts, and the pattern goes forth like that, and it's really hard for people, because then they'll feel so low and frustrated and all that guilt and shame with eating all those what they call bad foods on the weekend, because they've cut them out all week, haven't they? So it is finding that balance and that way to not restrict them so much, incorporate them into the week, and focus on the foods that are going to make you feel better. The foods are going to give you more energy as well, isn't it? The foods are going to serve you so you can go to work, feel good, go to the gym. But yeah, we hear that a lot, unfortunately.
So what are the common mistakes that you see when people are trying to lose weight?
Oof, wow, that's one of them. The one of them you just said there, restricting. So being too restrictive and then overeating on the weekend, that is a huge common one we see a lot. I'd say another one is where people don't eat enough in the day. So maybe in the morning, for example, might be no breakfast, or maybe it might just be a black coffee because they don't want to have the milk for the calories. Really minimal lunch, so something like a really light salad, like not much in it at all, no protein, no carbs, and then all the foods in the evening because they are starving. So not enough food all day. That's a really common one as well. I would say not incorporating enough fiber and protein. So not that people are just not feeling full enough. So that's a common one that we see all the time. Oh, there's 3. I'm trying to think of a few more. Can you relate to any of those?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There is obviously the restrictive eating when it comes to being very under fiber fueled, if that's the right word for it. Protein especially, because people will assume that they're getting enough through things like chickpeas and lentils. Well, yes, they are, but also maybe not the highest amount they could be from other foods such as, tofu, tempeh, and other bits and pieces that are more of a higher protein source. Obviously lentils are great and they will fill you up, and it does include that fiber, but having a few higher protein sources throughout the week, not on an everyday basis, just to keep them, because obviously if they're eating the same thing every day, this is what I do find with a lot of people. People be, I'm having a stir fry every night. Oh, there we go. If you're gonna have a stir fry every night, you're gonna get bored, and very easily.
Yes.
And it's then not incorporating different foods into that. So it's kind of like, oh, I don't really fancy this tonight, I'm gonna cook it again. Don't eat most of it, very hungry again.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I mean, I love tofu. Love tofu and edamame, and I'm always encouraging people to make the swaps there. And I think we've already spoken about this, but a common mistake I see people make, which is more along their mindset, is wanting the weight loss so quickly. They get fed up with the slow progress on the scale or see minimal progress, and that throws them off track. Then that throws them off track to thinking, oh my God, blow it, it's not working, I'm just going to go back to eating what I was eating before, and get stuck in that cycle as well. So that's another one. Or people getting really frustrated with themselves for eating a biscuit or for eating a packet of crisps and then thinking that's ruined their progress, whereas over the week, in the grand scheme of things, that one packet of crisps, that one biscuit, or that one piece of cake is not going to ruin your progress. Over the week or in 12 weeks time, like, it literally won't matter. And that's why I try and say to people, is working through that bag of crisps is not going to ruin your progress. Like, you keep going, you pick yourself back up, it's okay. And people need that reassurance.
I don't think there's any other mistakes I see. I did it. To be fair, it's normally around the same bits. Is they restrict themselves too much, and whether that be restrict themselves from just like their normal everyday food, or they're going to a completely whole foods plant-based diet from a very omnivorous diet. That's a huge mistake, because it's such a giant transition that it's not going to be in any way the same. Obviously, I'd rather you go onto the vegan meat alternatives first, just to kind of swap you over, and then go whole foods plant. It's doing things too quickly. That's another one.
Yes, that is another one. I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that one before. And I think, that's just made me think of another one was, not planning. So not planning your meals in advance, that can really throw people off track. So if maybe you've got a busy morning, you've not got your breakfast ready, you've got a busy day, you've not got lunch ready. So not having meals ready or planning your meals the week ahead means you're more likely to then reach for foods that are just quick fixes, higher in calories, not not got so many nutrients in there, ordering takeaways, for example, or just going for whatever you can see. Because if you haven't eaten, your brain literally is going to want glucose. You're going to want the quickest acting sugar to get inside you, aren't you? Which is going to be something glucose, biscuits, cakes, anything like that. So if you've got your meal there, if you've prepared it, you've got a stash in the freezer, that's going to be much better for you to do rather than opting for the other one.
Especially as you said that as well, is just don't go to the shops when you're hungry either.
Oh yes. Oh my God, have you done that? I've done it, and it's like I want to eat everything.
Like you'll literally go in and be like, oh, that looks good, that looks good. And you're like piling you trolley, you get home, you're like, why did I buy it? Like, I don't need this. I'm not gonna eat it. Half of it. It's insane the amount your body just wants different foods when you're in a shop when you are starving. And then you get out, you eat something in the car straight away, and you kind of then you ruin your appetite for what you actually wanted.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I can speak from personal experience there and from a lot of people I see. So the key there is, plan, prepare, don't let yourself go hungry. Have some snacks at hand, carry some fruit with you, a little pack of nuts or seeds. Do not go shopping when when you're hungry, when you need to eat. That is a crucial one. So you'll come out of all sorts of things, like you say, and just be absolutely ravenous.
So, as a dietitian, what are your top tips for losing weight?
Oh, my top tips. Oh, I just feel like I reeled a little one off then, actually. I think, my goodness, there's so many. So what I just said then with the planning and preparation, that's really key. So don't restrict yourself too much because that can lead to overeating. Not letting yourself go hungry. So eat regularly. So structure your 3 meals a day. If you're hungry, snack in between or some fruit and a small portion of nuts. But if you're not hungry, you don't need to snack. So you really got to be in tune with listening to your body. Listening to your hunger and fullness signals. That is a massive one that we overlook. So we eat with distraction now, don't we? We eat with our phones, the TV, we on the go, we don't have lunch breaks. So it's really sitting down and being mindful and eating really slowly and taking the time so our digestive enzymes can be released and our brain recognizes we're full as well. So that's another one. Balancing your portions, so making sure you've always got some vegetables, some tofu, edamame, some lentils, and some carbs in there as well. So making sure you've got a real jam-packed, nutrient-based dish. Fiber. We do not eat enough fiber in this country. What have I missed?
I feel like you've listed up quite a few already.
Yeah. I'm literally like, right, I can keep going. What can I tell you to do? But yeah, they're the top ones. They're usually not the ones people want to hear. People want to know like what to do for the quickest ones, like, oh, have this, like I said, bulletproof coffee or something. But this is what's going to help you keep the weight off long term.
Hey, I've got a question. That's so saying that you just mentioned that. When somebody is like, what is the quickest and sustainable way to lose weight? Quicker, but still sustainable.
Oh, you put me on the spot. Quicker, but and sustainable.
So yeah, no. When I say quick, I'm not like going on like Juice Plus, like or any of those kind of very quick. Still a kind of a good amount of weight every week, but sustainable. And when I say a good amount of weight, I mean like a normal amount of weight to lose.
Oh, right. Yeah, I thought you were saying like, what's a really quick way to lose
Oh,
weight?
yeah, no.
Oh.
Then we're going into that territory of promoting ridiculousness.
Yeah. Oh, look, the studies, the evidence and practice shows us plant-based eating, predominantly plant-based diet. I'm not talking about diet to lose weight, but that's the best way because the eating plant-based is so full of fiber. It's so fibrous, and it's the fiber that's going to release the the hormones that are related to hunger and satiety and fullness and overall satisfaction. The studies show us, the evidence shows us, practice shows us, when people are doing it, you can eat plant-based and lose weight without calorie restriction with listening to your hunger and fullness signals. So that's my guidance and my ethos, and that's what I follow. And the little caveat there is that we eat past hunger signals sometimes. So if we've had a lot of trauma in the past, or like sadness, loneliness, boredom, we tend to eat past hunger. And that's where it can become that you need a little bit more support, where you need some support from a trained professional. But that's my advice in a nutshell.
I love that. So the one question that I ask everybody that comes on. So you've got home after a long day, you're worn out, you're tired, you don't really want to cook, but you want something nutritious. What are you cooking?
Oh, I love that
something
question.
That's quick and easy. Something that's quick and easy.
Yeah. Oh gosh, to be fair, I've got my freezer is jam-packed full of like food I always prepare. So I'm going to go into my freezer and get some pre-prepared food, but I'm probably going to go for something like beans on toast or something like that. It's probably what I'm going to go to for a super quick, if I wasn't pulling out a pre-prepared meal from the freezer. What's a good one? Maybe boil up some pasta, quick 10-minute job. 10 minutes done. Whack a tin of chickpeas in there and tomato sauce. Yeah, that's probably my go-to. Oh, what about yours? What does other people suggest? What do other people go for?
So we had Ellie Busby, who was dark chocolate. We had Robert Cheek, who was a burrito, black beans, avocado, all that. I'm trying to think what else we've had.
They're good ones.
Yeah. So we had Anthony Rafferty. Was a pesto. A creamy mushroom pasta. I'm trying to remember the rest. I've had so many. But yeah, to be fair, I think the one that Robert Cheek said, I was like, that's my go-to. Also, is just a burrito. So kind of a with black beans, avocado, rice, a bit of tofu, some did I say black beans already? Black beans as well. Maybe double black beans. And then some like salad, so like some like spinach, other stuff, and just in a giant thick burrito.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, because you can get really nutritious meals with 10 minutes, like 10 minutes to boil up some pasta. I've got so many different varieties of pasta in the house. I've got like lentil pasta, chickpea pasta. Get a tin of lentils or a tin of whatever you want, some edamame beans in the freezer. My freezer's packed full of like frozen veggies as well. There's so much you can do in 10 minutes. I definitely don't think that chocolate would satisfy me. I'd be like, I need food. I literally need to eat food. But I love that from Ellie Busby, I think you said.
Another one I did just remember was a really creamy mushroom soup. So it was steamed mushrooms and then blended up with like tahini and other things, I think, which sounded amazing. And I was meant to make it after they told me on the podcast, and and I still haven't got round to it. But apparently it's so simple and quick. That was Graham Henry, actually. And yeah, no, I really want to try that still. I've just never got round to it. I have all the ingredients. I've just never got round to making it. But yeah, we've had some varied answers.
That's a yummy one. I'm going to try and do that one now. Yeah, I'm looking for some ideas. So yeah, nice. But yeah, there's my go-to ones.
So we're going to wrap this up in a second. But where can we find you?
So yeah, thanks for asking. I am on Instagram as Plant Nutrition _ with Soreya. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, just as my normal name. There is Soraya Pineda. So you can find me on there and LinkedIn, all under the same names. And you'll find my email address there. You can join my Facebook groups. I am going to be starting and launching my own small group weight loss coaching program, which is going to be launching at the start of April, which I am really, really excited about. Get to share ideas, knowledge and tips and help support people. So it's open to everybody. It tends to be mostly women, but open to anybody who needs the support and wants the support, more importantly. So yeah, look out for that. I'll be advertising that one really soon.
Sounds amazing. I look forward to seeing it.
Yes, I can't wait.
So I'm going to let you go, but thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute blast.
Oh, it's been lovely chatting. Thanks for having me, and hopefully we'll get to chat again soon.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much more we could have delved into, which I feel like we may need a round 2.
Oh my goodness, I know. It's hard we have to keep on track, don't we? There's so much that we could have gone on to it in more depth. But thank you. It's been a blast, and we'll speak to you soon.